unit, so that we work, so that at least I can get an idea on where the trustees wish.
Or is it just not on it? Thank you.
Sorry about that. Which I know I didn't hear myself talking, I should have known. Alrighty.
Good evening. I passed out this memo, and bear with me, I'm going to read through a good portion of it, just so that I got all the information out there accurately. There are a few changes from the email that I sent out a month ago or so. So, just to formalize this, I've got two issues that I need resolved, that I need village input on, regarding the IDR Lake Michigan water allocation application. So, issue number one is the projected Lake Michigan water rate. Our 2011 water quality improvement plan study recommended three options for improving the village's water quality. The first was air stripping to remove vital chloride contamination. The second was enhanced water treatment to remove vital chloride contamination and improve the water quality, equivalent to Lake Michigan water. And the third was Lake Michigan water to acquire water that was free of vital chloride contamination with improved water quality. Options 1 and 3 were placed on the March 2012 referendum with an estimated water rate for Lake Michigan water of $10.37 per thousand gallons. This rate assumed that only improvements for Lake Michigan would be installed. However, with the IPA's and the Attorney General's Office's insistence that air strippers are installed in the near future, Sauk Village was forced to raise the water rates to pay for those improvements. As a result, based on our estimates compiled with the best available current information, Lake Michigan water would now cost around $15 per thousand gallons. So my first question is, does Sauk Village wish to proceed with attempting to obtain Lake Michigan water allocation at this time if the required water rate would be that high?
That's question number one.
That's question number one. So we can move on if we don't want to discuss at this point, but that's one of the things that the IDR asked us about during the hearing.
I guess I do have a question. Is based on the $15 per thousand gallons, is that based on the improvements to our infrastructure that needs to be done, or we have to get the loan to make those improvements? And does it also include the amount of water that we're losing in the ground? Because we know right now we're about 30%, but once we make the improvements, we'll probably be in the lower digit numbers percentage. Does that include in that $15 range?
It does not include a cost increase to account for that water cost, but it does include the cost of repairing the infrastructure so that that water loss is eliminated eventually. So that $8.9 million that I had estimated for the water infrastructure improvements, that included the water main moving, that included the water main replacements, the hydrant replacements, things of that nature.
I guess the other question I would have is if the improvements were made to our infrastructure and our leakage in the ground was reduced prior to getting Lake Michigan water, would that cost per $1,000 or per 1,000 gallons would that decrease?
No.
Trustee Myers?
Microphones.
Because those improvements to get that reduction, and that's the key issue.
No, all the problems going around the area, with the lawsuit involving the Heights and a few other ones, we really don't know who our supplier is going to be at this time. We are still planning an application to make Chicago our primary supplier.
Well, the IDR did want us get updated commitment letters from the supplier company. So based on the study that we did, we determined that Chicago Heights was most cost effective. We basically completed plans for that water main that will connect us to Chicago Heights. And so we've got those letters.
So this figure includes the cost of water that we get from the heights.
Yes.
What is the next over that?
$3.81 per thousand. Yes, per thousand gallons. And that includes the cost of the infrastructure that they would need in order to be able to supply Sauk Village with water. So it's a little different than what they proposed for us before. Before it was, here's our water. In addition to that, you're going to need to pay us $1.1 million for pump station improvements and some other things. They've changed that now. They said, well, let's just forget about that. Let's just roll all that into the water fee. And to be honest with you, it kind of works out to be about the same thing.
That's still tying in off the State Street, coming up from the trail.
Yes, exactly. At this point, if it's okay, let me just go through issue number 2 because we're kind of going into that anyway. So issue number 2 is the non-revenue water. About 1/3 of the water that Sauk Village pumps into the distribution system is not metered and therefore is not billed for. This is called non-revenue water. Non-revenue water is the water that escapes the system through leaks, system maintenance, and other municipal activities. The non-revenue water can be valued across the village, the volume of the water times the current water rate. $5.50 per thousand, or about $700,000 a year. If the water rate increases, the value of this unbilled water becomes even more expensive. If the water loss is not curtailed by the time the commission water is obtained, not only will Sauk Village not be able to bill the water users for this water, even worse, we'll have to pay the lake water supplier for this water that enters the building system. IDNR wants Sauk Village to account for this non-revenue water, which can be accomplished with the following options. Option A is to increase the water rate. Sauk Village could increase the water rate by about 30%, which is the difference between what is pumped by Sauk Village and what is metered by the village's water users, in order to allow the income received from the water bills to break even with what Sauk Village would pay their lake water supplier. This increase would be temporary until the non-revenue water is significantly reduced. This option entails the following considerations. This option will allow Sauk Village to receive Lake Michigan water relatively quickly. The water infrastructure leakage rate will likely increase over time if not repaired, requiring further water rate increases to reach a break-even point. It is more cost-effective to repair the leaking water infrastructure than to increase the water rate to account for it. The required 30% water rate increase would be an additional financial hardship on the village's water users. And finally, a capital improvement plan to reduce the water loss to the IDNR acceptable limits would still be required, which is option B. So option B is to complete a capital improvement plan. Sauk Village could commit to a capital improvement plan, which would be financed by a water rate increase, that will reduce the non-revenue water to IDNR's acceptable limit if the Sauk Village has the necessary Lake Michigan water infrastructure constructed and is ready to receive lake water. This option entails the following considerations. This option would provide time for non-revenue water production improvements while moving forward with Lake Michigan water supply infrastructure construction. This option would allow for flexibility to address non-revenue water and lake water supply improvements as deemed prudent, and the ability to dovetail these efforts to reduce the overall time frame to receive Lake Michigan water. This option may not require a water rate increase to cover the revenue shortfall from receiving Lake Michigan water before water losses are significantly reduced. And finally, it would take longer for the village to receive Lake Michigan water than an option. finally, option C is to postpone the allocation process. Sauk Village can cancel the current local water allocation application and reapply after Sauk Village has reduced non-revenue water to 5 yards acceptable limit. This option entails the following considerations. This option would provide time for non-revenue water production improvements and Lake Michigan water supply infrastructure construction could be conducted in the future with financial improvement. The allocation hearing process would go much more smoothly as non-revenue water has already been reduced below 5 yards acceptable limit. The village would have to start the allocation application process all over again. And it would be significantly longer for the village to achieve this allocation. So, in order to finalize the Lake Michigan water allocation application and proceed with the final hearing, Sauk Village must provide us with the preferred option to address non-revenue water.
Is there a way you can put a dollar value with each option? Like option A, we know that you have to increase it to match the 30%. Option B would increase it to a certain amount per thousand so that we can make these repairs. And then option C, suggested amount. I guess I'm looking for suggested amounts to increase. Because it looks like all three options are looking for an increase. All three options get us to Lake Michigan water. What it appears though is each option would depend on the amount that the water rates will be raised and the amount of time it will take before we get Lake Michigan water.
Really, the variable is time.
Yeah.
Option B and C is just whatever order you want to do improvements in. Considering the financing to be equal, options B and C are the same dollar amount, which would be around $15 per thousand.
Right?
So then, if considering all things are equal again for option A, you just take that $15 and increase it by 30%, or it just depends where you are in the process. Because right now, your water rate is 550. So if you're not Michigan water right now, then with option A, you would just increase your water rate 30% to account for that. In February, when your water rate goes up to 750, you're going to need to do the same thing, 30% on top of 750. And then when it goes up to 15, you see my point. It's just a break-even point. That's all it is. Whatever your current water rate is, increase that by 30%. We've got option A. And so we've got everything in place. And then, hopefully at that point, the amount of water is reduced. And then you come back down to $15 per thousand. Does that help?
I think so. So option A is $15 per thousand plus 30%. Option B is $15 per thousand. This is what option C.
Yes. And then with option A, that $15 value plus 30%, it would be temporary.
Correct. Temporary depending on how it takes to repair all the infrastructure. And at what percentage of leakage are we allowed that 2%? So we have to go from approximately 30% down to 2%. Option C, the amount.
Because
But I guess with option C, the amounts would not have to go to the full $15 per thousand. It could be a lower amount where the village allocates a certain amount of what's collected every month would go toward infrastructure repairs.
true. Just throwing out numbers, if you were to take out a chunk and say, we're going to do $7.5 million in repair, if we take out an idea or we're just going to do that, and then we go through, place water mains, hydrants, valves, whatever, you're going to be paying that back for 20 years. So, there are two scenarios. Either you get your non-revenue water down to a
Any other trustees have questions? Any questions?
What's the time frame for B?
The IDNR said that reasonable time frame would be around 5 years. I would agree with that. I think we could,
Mr. Marsh?
You're saying with all your charge for everything, still paying about $15 per thousand. So that's going to be a total, and the Chicago High about 7740 plus tack on what our normal bill is now. Right? And excuse me, per month, right? All right, and well water treatment will be 8232 per month tack on to our present water bill.
not exactly, because what I've got listed as your current water rate is $7.50 per thousand, based on what the water rate will be in February. So you still got another $2 increase to get through.
Any other questions? All right, I would ask that the trustees, do the ones that have not answered the village clerk, please send in which option that you feel we should go with. And I can understand maybe some didn't respond yet because they needed more information. If you need more information, we can get with Rousen Engineering. But I think you laid it out pretty clear in layman's terms tonight for us. So I would ask if you have not responded yet to the village clerk on which option you feel we should go with, please make sure you send your response to the village clerk. You can do it in writing, you put it in your box if you want to, you can send an email for how it happens. Let's see if we can get at least a majority of the board response before next Tuesday so we can give you direction on where we need to head. I know you've been asking for it for a while, and that's the reason we brought you back tonight, because some of the trustees didn't remember everything we talked about. I would say yes, it's going to have to be on the next week. So I'm looking for the village clerk to get your response. All right? Thank you very much. Thank you for coming out. All right, so long waited for item number 3. The residents are sitting here waiting for this to review and draft 2009-2010 Sauk Village Audit. Trustees, I think that was the tree you had in your box that we had to cut down. We had the copies, but we have the auditor's reports tonight. Okay. So, we declare this as the final numbers. I asked them to be here tonight in case you had any questions. You should have received an electronic copy over the weekend. You received a hard copy in your boxes this last Saturday or Sunday, I think it was. So if you have any questions, I ask that we go through these questions. And this is something that I would ask people to make in next Tuesday night also. All right. Yeah, why don't you do that, and then if you have any questions, let's go through it.
Yeah, I was planning to cover some financial things, some highlights of information service. The report to the board, which includes functional control issues.
We can't hear.
Can you go a little closer?
How's that? Can you hear me now?
No.
Rosie, is your mic louder?
Is that better?
There you go. Thank you.
I'll just hold it up. So our plan is to report on the financials. We'll cover some highlights in the financial statements, our opinion, obviously, the report to the board, and letters that we've included within the report to the board, which are weaknesses within internal controls, We will cover some of the journal entries that were posted, just recap that, and then obviously just answer any questions. So basically covering the deliverables. Recapping the overall process and timeline and issues we talked about since I think we were in front of the board in May, and talked about some of the issues back then, and estimated timelines to complete the audit and what some of the issues were. And really, from the overall changes in the year end, I'm just going to recap some of the issues at a high level, but the changes in year end, what was included and not to be included, the budget process, and how the budget process came through for that 18-month period because of the change in year end, all the changes within management and processes within the organization, and overall just internal controls and financial reporting that will cover that just created significant issues relative to getting this audit completed. The good news is it's completed. The issue is now moving on to complete future audits and taking care of the issues that were identified, some of which you've probably already started to correct. Let's just start first with the financial statements. Sure. Is there an amount of time that I have a lot here?
No.
Okay. I'm not going to go through all 85 pages of the report, but I'm going to cover some highlights here. And the first thing is obviously our opinion. Okay, so pages 1 and 2. It's basically an unqualified opinion, which is a clean opinion, as it relates to your governmental activities and your business activities. So all the funds of the organization are included here. What we do not include is the police pension fund. Police pension fund is not covered in this. So there's paragraph 4 is an adverse opinion relative to the aggregate remaining fund information, which is a process that's required in accordance with generally accepted government auditing standards, and how we report financial statements have to be presented. The police pension funds not included, it was not audited. So that is excluded.
Just so clear, real quick, just so the trustees know, if you pick the biggest part where the numbers are in the middle of the page, it's the ones numbers 1 through 85, I believe. That is where we're at right now, and we're on page number 2. So it's, I think it's right in the middle of your packet. Page number 2 at the top, it says independent auditor's report, right? So it's the thickest part of the report. Numbers are in the center of the page, you should know, right? Sorry about that, I just want to make sure we're on the same page here.
Then our 6th paragraph refers to, it's an emphasis paragraph on the adoption of ASP 45, which is the other post-employment benefit. So that would be health insurance costs of the organization's paying for retirees that are shared. So that required, there's a new pronouncement that required that you calculate what that liability would be, the future liability for offering that benefit. So we want to let the reader know that that's adopted in this current year. And then on page 2, the 8th paragraph is another emphasis paragraph that informs the reader that the management discussion and analysis is not included within this report, as well as the budget information not included, because the budget was done not in an 18-month period, but in 2 12-month and 6-month periods that it was not included in this. So that's just informing the reader that there's no budget information. So page 3, we'll point out some financial highlights here. This is your government-wide financial statements. It shows your governmental activities and your business type activities. Overall, total assets of the governmental activities, that would be all your general fund, all your special revenue fund, all your capital project funds, debt service funds combined. Your total assets of your governmental activities were $27.3 million, and that includes $15.5 million of capital assets and primarily capital assets, about $13.1 million, and then some unamortized bond and issuance costs. So overall, $27.4 million in assets. The business type activities, which is your water and sewer fund, totaled $3.3 million in assets. So overall, the organization had $30.6 million in assets compared to $438.9, which was the last audit. We had total assets of $37.6 million. Page 3. So bottom of the total column, right, 30.6 million.
You have to go past the index? Go past the index. It looks like this.
It's
Right. It's right after government-wide with that blank sheet.
And there's a number of financial statements that are included in the packet. Probably there's also the TIF, individual TIF reports that are included too. So it's basically of that 85-page document. Page 3. So let's flip to page 4. Page 4 shows, again, a balance sheet, your liabilities and net assets. The organization had, at the end of October 10, a deficit of $21 million in its governmental activities, and the business type activities, unrestricted net assets of $3 million. So assets minus liabilities, total liabilities, you see in that governmental column on page 4, was $48.3 million for the governmental activities, $200,000 for the business type, so total of $48.6. So if you take your assets minus your liabilities, that's your net assets. You had assets of $27.3 million, liabilities of $48.3. So we have a deficit and net assets of $21 million. Now, what's included in the calculation is all your debt, and you see line under long-term liabilities, and within current liabilities, we have alternative revenue bonds. Alternative revenue bonds, approximately $35 million of those bonds are TIF bonds. So there's no assets when you issue TIF bonds. Those bonds aren't related back to specific assets on the balance sheet, so it's kind of flipped around. We have to record these obligations that you have, but those obligations aren't tied to any specific assets. There's going to be future revenue, property tax revenue from those TIFs that are going to be used to pay that annual debt service. So it's kind of ugly that it looks as far as that $21 million goes, because we included $35 million of liabilities that don't have an asset associated with it.
And our TIFs are healthy enough to make those payments.
Yeah, the current your current property tax revenues from your TIFs are covered by that service. So yes, so when you're looking at that $35 million, as long as those TIF aren't have the existence long enough to fund that service over time, they should, as long as the property tax revenue, be sufficient to fund that service. So we'll fund that $35 million. So if you back that out, our net adjusted net assets was $8.5 million. And that was for the total government. So you're flipping from, if you look at that total column, negative $18 million, and back that out, we're looking at a positive $8 million in net assets. So that's a more reflective picture of what your assets minus your liabilities are that are funded, and debt bonds that are funded by funding current assets and long-term assets. Let's flip to page 5, which is your operating statement. Page 5, it works from left to right. You see the governmental activities up top, business type activities, total expenditures of the governmental activities of $20.8 million. And then what we charge for services, as you work your way to the right, are revenues that offset that $20.8 million. We have grants and other contributions of $500,000. Overall, governmental activities, you have expenses, less your charges and your grants of $18.7 million. So you have costs of $20 million, you're charging for a couple $1 million, and you have an excess of costs of $18 million, and you have to fund that through general revenues. And as you go down, you see general revenues of property taxes, sales taxes, income taxes, and those general revenues fund that difference. So you had $11 million of general revenues and a shortfall of about $7.6 million. So that's a big drop in your net assets from $13 million to $21 million. Again, these are statements that include your capital assets and your debt, which are different from your fund financial statements. So there's really two sets of statements that are included in this. We'll get to the second set, which really more in line with what you're used to seeing, probably from management with your fund statements. Third question? Flip to page 6. Page 6 is your governmental funds. Now, this is individual fund statements. Your general fund, debt service fund. We have your Sauk Point Industrial Park, Logistics Center funds, and then all the other funds are grouped in the column called non-major governmental funds. And that's just a requirement. Again, governmental accounting standards require that when you present in a certain format, your general fund always has to be listed as a separate fund. And then the major funds, the other funds that are listed here, debt service, Sauk Point, Logistics Center, based on the calculation of percentage of revenues, percentage of expenditures, determined to be major funds and need to be reported separately. So we listed those separately. All other funds are grouped together and called non-major governmental funds. So if you look at the total column, far right, total assets were $15.3 million, compared to just things in that I have from the prior report, 4/30/09 was $21.2 million in 09. Total liabilities were $4.1 million, very flat with comparable to what it was in 09 at $4.1 million. And then your fund balance at the end of 10 was $11.1 million versus 4/30/09 $17.2. About $6 million drop in fund balance from 9 to 10. We'll flip to page 8. There's reconciliations between these pages that tie back to those front statements that I recapped. I'm not going to get into detail on those, but page 8 is your operating statement, again, the governmental funds. General fund, debt service, Sauk Point, Logistics Center, and all the other funds combined is non-major, and then your governmental fund total. Your total column there on the far right, your total revenues were $12.8 million. And this is a year and a half, 18-month schedule, so that's compared to the 12-month schedule for 4/30/09 9.7. Total expenditures were $19.9 million. And in 2009, they were $22.3, so we had a reduction in total expenditures there. And then your other financing sources dropped down to change in fund balance. Overall change in fund balance decreased by $6.1 million for 10/31/10. 4/30/09 was an increase in fund balance of $5.5 million. So you can see your fund balance dropped from $17.2 million to $11.1 million. And if you, one of the big factors of this in the overall drop in change in fund balance that similar to the TIF alternate revenue bonds and balance sheet that we talked about and how there's not assets reflected in that and impacts your net assets. Similarly, we have developer payments that were made in 2010 and even in 2009 in those TIFs that made up a significant proportion of that drop in fund balance. In Logistics Center, you can see that $6.7 million developer payments. So that's a big part of their planned payments with bond issues that we have prior years to make those payments. And then probably we'd be refunding those bonds over time with the property tax revenue from those TIFs. Cover on page 10 your statement of net assets on your enterprise funds. So this is your water and your sewer fund. Total assets of the water fund were $2.7 million. Total sewer fund assets were about $900,000. Overall, your enterprise funds were about $3.6 million. Liabilities, $500,000 in the water fund, $18,000 in the sewer fund, $573,000 total. So your net assets, the difference between the assets and liabilities, $2.1 million in your water fund and about $900,000 in your sewer fund. So total of $3 million. And then we'll flip to page 11 is your operating statements. You can see where your water fund and sewer fund are operating. And they're operating they had operating losses for this time period. Similar to what they were in 2009 as well. The water fund is operating at a deficit. There's obviously net assets, but it was operating at a deficit. It's basically about the amount of the depreciation that's coming in. So the charges for services, the rate you're charging for water, we're basically covering our operating costs, but not your cost operations, but not depreciation. So you're not building up that balance to cover the reserves and maintenance.
An operating loss between 2009 and 2010 was almost 400,000. Is that reading that correctly?
That's 325,000. Oh, operating loss exactly, 400,000, right, about 400,000. The footnote disclosures, I'll just cover a couple of things. Basically, footnote disclosures really support the balances on the financial statements, so go into a little bit more detail on what makes up those balance sheet and income statement numbers. Capital assets, cash and investments, they're disclosed here. I'm just going to cover a couple of footnotes that I would highlight, and it's probably good footnotes to be aware of. Our note 6 on page 27 is your long-term obligation, and that goes through page 31. But you can see it details out for your governmental activities as well as your business type activities, all the debt that's associated with the village, your ultimate revenue bonds, general obligation bonds, and then for your business and for your business type activities as well. And then there's detail of each individual bond issue that's listed in that schedule through pages 30. Other footnote disclosures to point out on page 38. We listed out a commitment, within a commitment footnote, the payments to those developers I mentioned, as of the period ended 10/31/10, you spent about $6.5 million in developer payments on the TIF issues. And then also we disclosed the commitment relative to the airstrip and the watershed fund, and the fact that it's coming in at $70,000 per month. Because this came through, the audit period going through November, any issues relative to obligations and commitments that the village had, this is as of 10/31/10, it's what was the water issue was an issue back at that time. Any litigation costs, any settled claims that came through, not just for water, but other claims had to be accrued for these things. So we're disclosing to the group that there are $70,000 commitments on this, on the water issue. We also disclosed in note 12 that there's several pending lawsuits and litigation and accruals that have been reflected in it for some settled cases of about $250,000 that have been accrued as a liability. There were settled after year end, after 10/31/10, but they've been accrued in statements. Correct. A couple other points, I think, schedules to be aware of. Page 44 is your IMRF schedule of funding progress. Page 45 is your police pension fund schedule of funding progress, and 46 is your fire pension fund schedule of funding progress. So these are dated back to 2000. The IMRF on page 44 is as of the evaluation date that IMRF had done. That's at 12/31/10. But just to be aware of, what is obligation pension out there, what percent of the funding at your, as of 12/31/10, your IMRF fund is funded at 62%. Your police pension fund as of 4/30/09 is funded at 50%. And then your fire pension fund as of 4/30/09 is funded at 52%.
So we're only funding about 50%. Well, we should be funding at least another 50%.
Well, that's the question is that what's your target funding ratio, right? And that's a matter of how much can we afford to put into our levy, can we afford to put in, and what's required. The state comes out. You have actuarial calculations that determine what your required contribution should be, and that's a matter of can we afford to fund those contributions. So ideally, could it be? You look at state averages and other municipalities that have a funded ratio, you have a lot worse than 50% out there, and some that are better than 50%. So maybe some at 60, 70%. Is it a target to be 100%? Yeah, but that's a target at the time. The last part of the financial statements I want to point out is really just the fact that from pages 50 on through our detailed individual fund details of what's presented up front. So your general fund, each individual special revenue fund, your debt service fund, your capital project funds are all detailed out. Balance sheet, income statement, revenues, expenses are all detailed out. Any information that's summarized up front is detailed in the back. And then I think a quick schedule that we'd like to point out is your pages 82 through the last page of the report is a list of all your outstanding debt. And the annual required debt payments, principal, and interest on all those bonds. And that goes through page 85. Questions on the financial statements?
I just know I'm hearing the same sounds that I made after I hung up the phone on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question that you had when we were on the phone is, overall, where we at, as of, 10/31/10, so a while ago, you have a government-wide deficit that's presented, and, as you're looking at it, you have to back out, like we said, the TIF debt, and you do have, $8 million in your assets. And operationally, at the fund level, after those, I don't know what's going on, since 2010, we haven't seen financial information for 11 and 12, but as those developer payments shouldn't be there, so we should see operational improvements in 11 and 12. So,
I don't know if it's quick, but I was looking for a more concise summary sheet. In other words, something that just gives me nuts and bolts. Basically, what we started out with in 2009 and the 18-month summary of what we have or where we're at in 2010, in October 2010. In other words, what we started with after the last audit,
17.2 million.
we had 17.2 million, but that was our deficit. That included the bond.
That did not include bonds. This is just funds, not including capital assets, not including that, just individual fund balance.
Fund balance, we had 17.
17.2.
In deficit, or that was
No,
revenue?
that's positive.
Positive, okay.
So, I mean, the fund statements had fund balances of 17.2.
Okay.
As of 4/31. That does not include all your infrastructure,
Correct.
your capital assets, and it doesn't include all your outstanding debt.
Okay.
So if you want to look at the total picture, which includes capital assets and outstanding debt, and if that's
No, I was just looking at just that part, fund balance. Now, in 2010, 18 months later,
it's 11.
it was 11. Okay.
So it dropped to 6 million.
About 6 million.
Any other questions?
Okay. Now I'm going to cover the reports of the board, which is this side. So this is a required communication that, this is all financial. This is all the numbers. Within this document, this is required communication, specific information that our professional standards require that we communicate to the board are listed in here. What I'm going to do is just flip through a couple highlights. Page 3. Accounting estimates. So the financial statements have accounting estimates with them. The two significant estimates we point out are the allowance for doubtful accounts on your utility billing. So what are we going to collect? What do we estimate we're going to collect on our outstanding receivables for our utility billing? What's the accounting policy? What's the estimation? Process management goes through to estimate that amount, and then any comments that we have. So that's a significant estimate. So we're telling you that that's part of your financial statements. We're saying that those didn't follow its policy relative to the current year of adjusting that balance down to a net realizable. So you have an aged receivable balance of what we're owed, and that went past 90 days, and there was no allowance to say that of the dollars that were owed to us, how much we actually think we're going to collect. So we had to adjust that down for what's uncollected. So there was an audit adjustment related to that. So while the financial statements include that estimate, it was derived through the audit process versus internally by the management. Net pension obligation and OPEB obligation is another estimate. And that's really just the actuarial assumptions that we use to determine, estimated useful lives of employees and the rate of increase in compensation, making an actuarial calculation. So there's obviously estimates in that. We looked at those estimates that were prepared with the actuary. We didn't have any significant issues on that information. So that's significant estimates. So let's go through the letters that are attached relative to internal controls. So the first letter is a internal control letter. This is a control deficiency letter. It starts out if he's honorable president and members of the board of trustees, and under the heading within the middle of the paragraph, credit card and expense reimbursement policies. You see that? Okay. So our first letter is this control deficiency letter. So whenever you have a breakdown in internal controls, as auditors, we have to classify them within 3 categories. The lowest level is a control deficiency. As the area that it relates to, the dollars impacted by that area, whether it's payroll, accounts payable, those become more significant to get a breakdown in internal controls. A defined internal control breakdown is classified between those 3 categories as at the lowest level of control deficiency. As the area coverage rises, it becomes a significant deficiency to a material weakness. The highest classification is material weakness. So this is at the lowest level of control deficiency. And we're just saying that during our testing of credit card statements and expense reimbursements, that expense reports didn't formally document approval of expenses prior to reimbursement. Expense reports didn't have certain expense reports didn't have supporting receipts for expenses incurred. We did note, however, that the copy of the credit card statement was included with expenses. So there was some mitigating control there with the credit card statement, but the policy, we have a policy in place of having those receipts, having an authorization that was
So although we had credit card invoices, if there was money spent on food, there was nothing to verify what that expenditure was made, what for food, for what meeting, who attended, how many people.
and authorization. The supervisory approval of that expense. So, that's, how much, so why do we classify it as a control deficiency versus anything more significant? It's based on a dollar factor. And, if you had $10 million worth of expenditures in a year, from an audit perspective, materiality is much more significant than the total dollars that you spent on credit card purchases.
So what you're saying basically is money was spent on the credit card. It was just the only thing we had was the credit card statement.
And that's not objective. We pick a sample of items to look at. We don't test 100% of the universe of your credit card purchases. Of the sample we looked at, we had issues with receipts and authorization.
This is just 2010.
This is
18
2000.
months off.
Right.
If you find a deficiency, if you look at the credit card and you find a deficiency, do you then look at all of them, or you just focus on that one?
No, we would determine how significant it is. So, the fact that you didn't have follow policy doesn't necessarily mean it's not an authorized expenditure. It's not a proper expenditure of the village. So, it's a control point. And the universe of credit card transactions, we would have looked at and say, okay, what's the total purchases throughout the year and how material is it? So, audits focus on materiality. We don't test 100% of what's included in financial statements, but we test enough to be able to issue an opinion and say that it materially represents the financial information the village is appropriate. So in this case, yeah, we would have looked at the universe and said, okay, we looked at some, we know you're breaking the policy, you're not following the policy, we're going to report it.
And we don't know exactly how much money was spent on credit cards
I
because
mean,
it's just an audit.
We can tell you in our file that we have documented which specific transactions we looked at. It's likely to report back to you.
Right. That's fine.
So that's not an issue.
Yeah.
That's a good follow-up to that. All right, the next letter is now in the same realm of control deficiencies, or material weaknesses and significant deficiencies. So the first point, cash and investment account reconciliation. So we noted during our testing of cash and investments that the village's accounts had not been reconciled for a 2-year period. So while there were, and that there were numerous audit adjustments, we list out within this report all the adjustments we had, 62 audit adjustments. And we'll talk about the fact that that's material weakness in and of itself, but a number of them related to the fact that the accounts were being reconciled. You may have had reconciliations, cash and investment reconciliations, but they weren't balanced. So you can have a reconciliation, if it's not balanced, is technically reconciled. So we spent a lot of time to clean that up and get to a balance that we could then opine on and say this is incorrect. Okay? So that's inherently cash impacts every account balance, right? Accounts payroll, every account balance is impacted by those accounts. So that's inherently material. And then we have, recommend that the village put in place procedures to ensure that bank reconciliations are properly completed and reviewed on a monthly basis and how reconciling items are being investigated.
And I know you've had over the weekend to review this audit. Is there recommendations that have been made throughout this that we've already started to implement since you've been on board? Okay, so what we should probably do is at a village board committee meeting, not tonight, we should come back with a list in a column of what the recommendations were in this audit and what we've already implemented and what we're going to do if there's recommendations that we have not implemented, what we're going to do to implement those recommendations and what's the timetable of getting them in place.
I'm going to do the report.
So let's look, I know it's going to be a little bit of work, but let's look for like either the first or third meeting in January, please sit down the board.
I will do something.
All right, thank you.
All right, so the second material weakness point is relative to the audit adjustments. So we say during the course of the audit, we had in excess of 50 audit adjustments. We had 62 that were required to correct the village's general ledger. So we had adjustments required to correct numerous accounts, cash accounts, receivable accounts, property taxes, water and sewer, garbage, general utility billing, unbilled receivables, utility tax. We list out pretty much most of the accounts that are on trial balance, but court fines, interfund loans and transfers, accounts payable, accrued payroll. So you get the feel that there's a material number of adjustments that we had.
Aaron?
That was one of the things that we found out. We were finding out that we weren't paying our garbage bills. So we had to get a separate, and that's why you saw, I guess, in the next one, you saw a separate garbage account. Because that was one of the reasons.
So, the recommendation, obviously, it's important for the village to perform monthly and annual reconciliations of all these accounts and present accurate financial information to the board, ensure accurate external financial reporting. The recommendation is to obviously have all those reconciliations performed monthly and annually. We will then go out in detail and just point out, the specific, more significant of all those reconciliations. We pointed out in the first paragraph: your water, sewer, garbage, administrative, utility, accounts receivable needs to be reconciled to the general ledger on a monthly basis. Your accounts payable detail needs to be reconciled to the general ledger on a monthly basis. Interfund loans, garbage collection fees, water deposit detail, property tax revenues and receivables, all these accounts need to be reconciled on a monthly basis. So that takes through page 2. We also list out accrued payroll on page 3. That's the material weakness. Then the lower level, significant deficiency, water and sewer accounts receivable is the first point. And we say the village has accounts receivable balances recorded at their full amounts. This is where we talk about the allowance for the doubtful accounts that are older than 90 days and may not be fully collectible. There needs to be a process in place to assess what that collectible balance is, and that needs to be done on a monthly basis and adjust that allowance for doubtful accounts on a monthly basis. Journal entry review is the second point. Currently, the finance director is currently as a 10. The finance director makes all journal entries to the general ledger. Although monthly financial statements are reviewed by the village manager and the board at the time, there is no independent review of journal entries. So there needs to be an independent review of journal entries. Wire transfer transaction approvals was the third significant deficiency. And again, their finance director initiates wire transfers and records them in the general ledger. Transfers are not approved or reviewed after initiation or completion. So recommend that either another member of management, the village manager, have review and approve each of the transfers or request automatic notification from the bank whenever a transfer is made. Okay, so those are the control issues, and then the last item to point out is on, there's really just an attachment here of the 13 pages of journal entries that were posted, and 62 entries that were made in the audit.
So the 13 pages we see here, these are all adjustments that have to be made.
To the trial mill, to the general ledger, in order to be able to issue the opinion on the financial statements. Right. To be able to say that the financial statements are materially correct, these adjustments have to be made.
Which the board we're talking about is these 13 pages just like this.
Now, for 2011, those adjustments need to be recorded within the general ledger. Make sure your fund balances agree with what's reported in the audit, so that you can start using the next. Start with a good balance to go forward to the next year's audit. The last 4 reports that we cover and really just point out what they are your 4 TIF reports. We have the Sherry Brook Plaza, the Sauk Point Industrial Park, the Sauk Plaza Redevelopment Plan, and then Logistics Center, Sauk. What these reports include is in relation to opinion, so what we've audited these funds in relation to the overall financial information of your main financial statements, and then we also issue a compliance opinion on the testing of the expenditure, the cash layouts of within those funds in accordance with the state statute subsection Q relative to the TIFs, and making sure that they're in accordance with that subchapter, section Q. So from the compliance opinion, the testing that we didn't identify any compliance issues with the expenditures made within each of these TIFs. If we did, we report that within our compliance opinions. So that's a positive point on TIF expenditures that really did come up with compliance violations. That was the last item covered in the reports. Is that any questions for us?
Any questions from the board? There's a lot to absorb. And this is your first year looking at an audit, which is probably the first time for a few because we have had one 2.5 years. So, again, if you have any questions, what I would do is, as you're reading it, if there's none tonight, I'll get you directed your questions to Mr. Mohan, and we can get the answers. Again, one more time, is there any questions from the trustee?
I do have a couple of things. First, I'd like to say thank you. This is a lot that was done. I know you had to do a lot of reconciliation.
We lost a couple of employees in the time that we were working on this.
It's a shame.
I understand that. Obviously.
It's a shame that had to happen, in that period of time, but we can move forward now. we have to get our TIF back on track. We have to go with that to be compliant with the law. But what I'm asking is now, can we do it with this 2010, or do we have to wait till we get through with the 2011? For the TIF. Yes. Yeah, but then, in other words, we haven't done a TIF report either in all these years. So we haven't done an audit for the TIF. I just saw you just did this one.
Well, no, there's the TIF, the individual TIF reports that go to the controller's office
Yes.
can be done, and this component is attached to that.
Correct.
So all this is one of the components, along with there's a legal opinion that's issued with that, with the TIF. There's the mayor's certification. Then this component of the compliance report that we've issued is attached to it. So the financial information is there to complete that.
Okay. Now, in your professional opinion, as far as audit, would this help us re-qualify for bond issues, for bond ratings?
This one?
Well, no, not this one, but I'm just saying right now we're in suspension for our bonds. Would this help us re-qualify? Or are our numbers not quite there yet?
Well, yeah, your numbers are not quite there.
Okay.
Not with this report.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. I don't want to get
You're 11. Obviously you got to get caught up. But obviously that's one of the things they look at. So it's reported with a number of issues that are reported here as far as just financial control, oversight, and process. So until you get a cleaner report, I think you're going to have some difficulty with rating. From just financial number, you can, like we went through and talking through your deficit and government-wide financial statements and how you can back out your alternate revenue bonds. And you can have that discussion with the rating agency, and you can understand it's really not as bad as it looks. But overall, you have to address the material inconsistent deficiencies and controls in order to be able to get current. And then once you get current, then you have a better impact on your bond rate.
So basically you're saying we'll have to show no deficit.
Well, I mean, I think regardless of whether there's a deficit or not, I think you got to get current first.
In other words, we have current that way, current with fees, current with bringing money in, current with...
No, but current's going to show a rating agency that there's control and there's, oversight, better, improved control oversight. It's going to be hard to convince somebody that we're going to come off of a deficit when the financial information is so stable. Right. You got to get that current so that you can say, okay, looking forward, we know what our base is and we know how what are we going to do to change it from where we are to where we want to be.
Okay.
You can't do that with stable information. It's hard to do with stable information. It's a hard to make.
Okay, that's because right now bonds is something that's kind of important to us. And, we don't want to go out there doing that and we're not prepared. But right now we're going in the right direction thanks to you and getting this done. But we're still just not right there. And that's something that's, to grow the other village, we have to, because we cannot just, we have to borrow money. But we have to show we can pay it back to us.
I think it's important, and what we're discussing getting into January is, like you say, number one, getting current with our audits. And we'll be looking at that in January. The other thing is looking at your recommendations and showing how the village is moving forward based off your recommendations and how we're getting our auditing process and journal entries and making sure that we're doing everything like we're supposed to. So you have to be able to show the steps that you're taking. Right now, like you said, that this audit does not look favorable for the village. It shows a lot of deficiencies within our administration for at least 2009, 2010. Now we know that since Mohan's come on board, he's already made some changes, and he's made some positive changes. So in January, we'll discuss what the next steps are, getting us current for the audit. We'll also review where we were and where we are and where we need to be. And as a village board, we'll have to set goals on what we're going going to do moving forward. So as we receive the next audit for 2011, hopefully we'll see additional improvements, and the audit won't be so bad. 2012, again, that will show a constant improvement as we move from 2009 to 2012, and that's what's important.
Sir, within the history of your firm, how many audits have you done for Sauk?
It's a very good question. I don't have that information with me, but there have been years, yeah. This, we've audited the village of South Village as far as I can remember. And I started with our firm, Wilkes Chesterfield and Olympia Fields in 1990 that merged in with the Bladger in 91. We've been working with the village of South Village, I believe that was at the time, if not part of that. So, if you look back to those prior audits, 9 and back, obviously timeliness wasn't an issue, and financial oversight, and we didn't have efficiencies, obviously. It was clean.
So you say that this audit, this 2009-10, which is 18-month audit, was the first one we ever seen magnitude in this village that had 3 departments in it.
Correct.
I think what's important too is realize that the village receives awards every year because of our auditing process, and
It was a certificate of excellence in financial reporting. So you file and that has to be filed for a certain period of time in order to receive that certificate. So it's a 6-month deadline with that. So you would receive that annually. That doesn't necessarily mean you couldn't have a control deficiency or an issue, but the package that's required to receive that, the amount of work that goes into the management discussion analysis, the transmittal letter, you had management put together that previous management that was here in place, and they put together quite a bit of time and effort in that process.
so we should see that one every year. Right. Any other questions? All right, if you have any other questions, make sure you please address Mr. Mohan. Mr. Rollins. I don't like to look at Mr. Mohan. But address your questions to him, and you can reach out and find out if you have any additional questions, or if you need some additional answers. But again, I already stated we're going to move forward for the first or second, it'll be the first or third meeting in January. But I'm looking to have this audit on the agenda for next Tuesday. All right. Gentlemen, I appreciate you coming out. Thank you very much. All right. Move to item number 4, truth and taxation. Well, what you have before you is what was passed out earlier, came across, everyone got a packet of paper. You should be doing which one? And again, thank you for bringing that up, because I forgot to mention it. Tonight you have before you all the raw data, I guess if you want to call it. It will be an ordinance form by Friday. You can review it, and if you have any questions, please get Mr. Marlowe by Monday, because this again, we're going to have on the agenda by next Tuesday.
It's about 3% increase from the last year, 2011 tax levy. And there is no increase in fire protection as well as police protection, because we have already.
I'm sorry, you said there's no increase?
There's no increase for fire and police protection because we have already reached the maximum of 6%. And if at all, we might get about 3% cost in loss and expenditure from Sauk County as usual. if at all we might get it. But I'm not very positive about it.
So police and fire were already capped out, we cannot increase anyone.
Right,
Okay.
police and fire. The other line items have been increased by 3%.
Other than I haven't seen it. Each one of them has been increased by 3% apiece.
And in addition to the tax levy of 2.292 million, we might get about 3% extra. That will amount to about 68,771, which makes a total of 2.361123. That is 2,361,000.
So the important thing is, if I understand you correctly, is with the 3% increase in the total tax levy, the village is only going to receive $68,771.
That's right.
Okay. For the village-wide. Right.
Questions?
That's for the 2012 fiscal year.
2012 tax levy year. Tax levy. We are levying tax starting from 1/1/2012 until 12/31/2012. In 2012, the taxes will be collected in 2013, January 1 until December of 2013.
Any other questions?
This tax levy does not include the principal and interest on 2007A and 2010 bonds. That will be levied, especially it has to be levied in 2013, well before March 1st of 2013. That should be levied well before March 1st, 2013.
Do we anticipate that may have to happen?
Yes, we have to levy, there's no choice.
Mr. Moore, can you explain again? Explain again.
The principal and interest on 2007A bond and 2010 working cash bond has to be levied well before March 1st of 2013. Because we will not have that kind of dollar amount to pay for 2007A bond and 2010 working cash bond. Otherwise, in previous years, those taxes were collected by TIP 2 and 3. And TIP 2 and 3 share a portion of their tax dollars to pay off this building, debt service.
So what we probably should do is make sure that you're on the agenda probably in February.
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
first meeting in February, so we
right,
discuss.
first meeting before February.
You said TIP 2 and 3 to share the TIP dollars and pay
Yes.
this building.
Yes, and also we had impact fee, if you will, you can remember. We used to get tons of impact fee well before. So that took care of the payment of debt service for 2008 and 2010 bonds.
What did the impact be?
Come from developers,
Right.
the new developers.
New expansions and improvements where you have buildings. What was the impact fees from impact?
Yeah, it went back as well as people promise, if I'm not mistaken.
And I can tell you that we've also reached out, and Trustee Burgess is working on economic development committee, trying to bring additional businesses
Right.
into TIF number 3. So, doing whatever we can, because it's important that we continue to build up TIF number 3, not only with businesses, but also hopefully providing jobs for our village residents. That's what's important.
So therefore, lack of impact fees. So the residents has to pay the tax and pay off the 2007 bond and 10 bonds. There's no choice. Because we will not have The lender will not have that kind of money. The 2008 bond will cost about $685,000 per year. And 2010 bonds will cost almost about $55,000 in interest per year. So it has to come through the taxation.
Any other questions on the bottom line?
You said earlier that this, you gave us this, and it's up 3% on all items.
Last year we levied almost about $2.225 million. 2.4 million last year. So 3% over means it's almost bumped up to 2.29253.
And the Cook County taxes, how much do they cut out? Is it actually what we receive, or is it what they owe?
They owe.
They still owe us $85,000, and Lowell County owes us $20,000.
Probably we may not be able to collect that money because by now, normally the second tax installment will come somewhere in October 1st until October 31st. November and December, hardly we can get that $8,000 or $10,000 in total.
But I was going to ask you, how are we with the payment, the repayment of the tax money that we
Yeah, we are trying to pay out the $25,000.
accepted 25,000? Okay.
Yes.
So they're agreeing with that?
But there are no official letter from the county.
Well, we'll keep the records to show that we're
Yeah.
doing this. Are we doing it monthly?
Not monthly, quarterly.
Quarterly? Okay.
Probably the next installment is due January end.
But they're not saying anything, they're not?
They have not said
That's
the
good.
date and so forth.
So they're taking something, okay.
So we'll get down to 80, we'll get down about 85,000, we'll just come and run it off. And it's a wash. I'll tell him. All right, any other questions, comments? All right. Again, orders will be inside your boxes by Friday. According to the according to this. There you go. All right. Move over. Let's see here. Truth and taxation. They both come at the same time, tax orders. 6. Now we're going to 6. I'm sorry. Crime-free housing, trustee Marsh.
Okay. About maybe 7 months ago, if not longer, we brought the first edition of the crime-free housing, and that came before this board, and then I turned it over to Chief Fox, and then immediately thereafter, our state rep went down to Springfield and argued a point to change some of it. So the original ordinance that we had we went through it, and the license, any portion of the license application out.
You know what, Fred, try to just let everyone know, the one that you received in your box and the one you received through email,
Yeah, it should be on the random one tonight.
that one is not the one that you're looking at. The one you should be looking at is a new one that was passed out tonight that went around the table.
And I'll jump to that in 1 second.
Right.
The old one is completely out. Would be in violation of Illinois state law, and some of the stuff that our state rep went down and argued about. So, after reviewing that and talking to the gentleman that Trustee Benson brought to the table a while back, it's been a while. So, he gave us a model ordinance from Park Forest, which is a home rule. So then we got a couple of ordinances around about 3 other different towns that's not a home rule, and we looked at them, and I decided, you know what, if we're going to go on board with this thing, let's stay exactly what the heck the state outlined. So your new proposal is exactly written from the state statute. Everything in it is from the state statute. We pretty much so adopted the state statute for crime-free housing. And it spells it out, and it's there. I mean, it's almost word for word from the Senate Bill 1766, I believe, and it does cover everything we'll need here. And I passed this over, I faxed it over to him, and he looked at it, the gentleman from Park Forest, I believe he was the deputy chief of the police department, and he said, it's great, for you guys, it's going to work out perfect. Because we're at
Non-rural.
thank you. All non-rural. So this is what I'm presenting to you. If you look through it and see anything in it that you don't like and you have questions, then give me a call or give Matt a call. But it's right for the state statute. The old one, the original one that came up, it had stuff in it that was changed in the law. So this one here is the current law, and it looks good. It looks good. So you have a week to look at it. I would like to ask the mayor, if all possible, can we maybe throw this on the agenda for next week? If you want more time, then fine. But I'd like to get it on board with the police department. So they like to, there's still some training they have to do into it, and the park force is willing to train those guys that's involved in it and get them on board. The training is basically all the same, just that there's some things that we can't do because we're home now on the road. So that is a new one, as you see, is a lot more involved, but it's right out of the state statute.
Trustee, I have a question. It's stated here that this is crime-free rental housing.
Correct.
Okay, what about crime-free housing, period?
You have crime-free rental housing it's up to the landlord's responsibility to come in and do the program and everything that was explained to us that night. Now, the other housing problem we have in our town, we have local ordinances that will cover that on the property man. And we found a couple, we found quite a few. The Illinois state statutes changed on that also. And we're in the process of reviewing that and bringing those up to code.
Okay, that's right, okay.
We found quite a few things in our code book that is, let's say, out of date. So, and we're bringing those back into the guidelines.
Okay, I just didn't want to just put just one segment or one particular, rental housing. We needed it in all housing.
Yes, and that will come under your property maintenance of your 2006 ICC code that they brought in the Unified Code.
Oh, yes, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Basically, that's the whole thing. Once again, if you have any questions, you can call, or you can call over to Matt, and he for you. But all you have to do is get a copy of the 1766, and that's exactly what the Senate House bill.
But as the trustee stated, I think it's important that we move forward on this. We've been talking about this now for probably about 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
We've come before the village board with recommendations. We've had presentations. It's got put off to the side. Due to the fact that it is according to state statute, we've had our attorneys look at it. I would ask that this be put on the agenda for next Tuesday night, that we can go ahead and get this passed. One of the things working with the police department is that some of the landlords have already voluntarily started providing more information. So our police department does have a list of homes who the landlords are, and they're keeping the police department up to date. Again, right now it's on a voluntary basis, but we'd like to go ahead and get this ordinance passed and move forward so that we can start addressing the vacant homes that we have in Sauk Village, finding out who the landlords are so we can start addressing, again, not only the landlords, but some of these homes that went into foreclosure, some of these homes are sitting vacant, some of these houses are, the residents live out there, they know exactly. You've got broken windows, smashed in doors, we've got copper removed from the houses, and nothing's happening at all. We cannot figure out or find out who is the mortgage company or the bank that's holding that mortgage. So that we are moving forward. Again, it's a separate note, but we're moving forward, trying to find out those. We met with quite a few banks. You're welcome if here tonight, but since being appointed as chair of the housing authority, he's reached out to multiple banks, and he's also reached out to find out, where our vacant homes are and who are the owners. So he's done a lot of work, and I appreciate the work that he's done already. The other thing is I've mentioned it to the Board of Trustees. I don't know if I mentioned it in an open meeting, but we will be putting together a crime-free housing committee. If you are interested in serving on that committee, if you would send a letter to my attention. And I'm looking for the crime-free housing committee. They will work closely with our ordinance review committee, code enforcement, housing authority, and they will also be working on hosting and providing the training that's needed for tenants, landlords, and getting this moving forward. They're also working closely with our police department. So I am looking for individuals that are interested, but I also am reaching out to the community to see if we have any former police officers. I've already had one former police chief, I don't remember which town, but it's here in South Suburbs. He's already retired. He's already reached out and said that he's willing to work on this committee, so I will be reaching out to him and asking that he join this crime-free housing committee. So we are moving forward, and I think it's in a good direction. So if any other trustees have any questions, I didn't see any hands, but again, Trustee Myers, I would send your questions to him, email him. You gotta check your emails, it's not working. I keep on being bounced. If you can have Gerald or someone check his email account. The village. I sent that.
I received email this afternoon at 4 o'clock, but I haven't checked it the last few hours, but I'll look at it.
All right, so it seems like every time I see an email, it gets kicked back.
Well, okay, I can tell you why in a minute. The last thing is that a gentleman is working with South Heights, Mike Tillman. He has a program. He was hired by Steger as a crime-free housing director, and he also is on our state reps safety task force and everything. And he has a program that he said he would let us download, and it tells you everything you need to know on the crime-free housing. Keep the tally and everything, and keeps up to the citations and everything, and notices you give out. But Mike said he would be glad to work with us if whoever takes this over. You said sure, then fine. But I think his brother runs it in South Heights, he runs it in Steger, and they're both involved through Cook County too. So.
Now, Mike reached out to me also, and there is Park Forest that's reached out also, and they said that you're willing to help us.
Deputy Chief out there is fantastic. He gave us all kinds of suggestions and leads that we went back and forth with today. He's also said he will come on board and assist us in what we need to. I want to thank the trustee Benson for bringing that gentleman to see the lifesaver for us.
Definitely, thank you. Any other questions on this one? I don't see anything, so we'll go ahead and move to item number 7. Public comment. All questions and comments, please direct them to myself. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to comment on a topic of their choice. So anything tonight, and each speaker will be allowed the opportunity to speak. If you would, please state your name and address for the clerk.
they didn't address that. I was addressing the audit. Also, I'd like to know, and I'm really surprised that there was no material documentation when you was using the credit cards. I don't know how you can run a government agency and don't have proof when you buy something. The third thing I'd like to address is that who on the board is letting the residents know that they're taking money out of the water fund and using it for everything except for the water fund. I'd like to know how is that being addressed. And my last question is number 4. Is it not mistaken that it costs $79,000 for extra? And I'd like to know who's going to recommend that we cancel the Lake Michigan water allocation in order to pursue air stripping, which is $79,000 a month. If I'm mistaken, that's what he said. Now, can anybody address any of those things? And frankly, what's happening to the money? Over the years, you guys have taken money out of the county, no accounting for it, and it comes up with a figure. So I'd like to know what's going on.
All right. I will address the credit cards. The credit cards have always been controlled by the village manager, chief of staff, and the mayor. No one on this board has a credit card. So I will make that very clear. That's why it's important to find out how much of those invoices were actually approved and where the money is going. So I have a feeling there'll be additional information or additional investigation looking into those credit cards. So but when it comes to the water and air stripping, at this time we will not answer any questions due to the fact that you have litigation against this village.
That has nothing to do with my question.
That's the answer you're giving.
Okay, no, because you're not going to answer me my question.
Not as long as you have litigation against this village. And believe me, it's in the best interest of the residents who are sitting out here, because you're not suing just this board, you're suing them. So I work for the residents.
What's in the best interest of the people is to let them know what happened to their money. You guys have sat up there and spent that money for no reason. We have no accounting for what you guys have been doing for the last year and the prior administration. Everybody up there should know what happened to the money. Nobody knows what happened. Can anybody explain to us what happened to our money? We have been paying it, we pay faithfully every month. Nobody wants to tell us what happened to our money. It's ridiculous, and you know it.
Any other comments?
There's no one else? Of course I have a comment, sir.
And I'm Francine Anderson, and I live at 1606 216th Street. Do you have any of the answers to my 8 questions I asked from last week?
I don't have any comments,
So the answer is no?
I don't have those questions in front of me, that's what I said.
Oh, okay. The other thing, sir, is you sit here tonight and you listen to the auditors and you talk as if none of the persons sitting at the present table was present at that time. You were a trustee then. You voted then. So if the work wasn't done, it wasn't done by employees, it was really that you had responsibilities on it. So you assumed and had it look as if to these people here that it was just done blankly and was not prepared. I think a lot of it had to do with when you build such a negative environment that your staff can even work, because you have them twixt and in between, that you have people who lived and worked and done this job for 30 years, all of a sudden stop doing reconciliations. She just retired in 2011. So the reconciliations didn't get done for 2009. That's 2 years of a person who had 30 years of experience did not do the work. So this audit is just proof of what happens when you just blatantly fire people out of their positions because you want to. And I was waiting to see what 2009 would have. Now, for my other questions, I still got a few minutes. For the water allocations, I'm sure you're not going to answer my questions as well, but I would like it to be read into the minutes so that it is recorded, so when I come back, it's been recorded, sir. And that question is, when you were given the 3 options, you asked the other trustees to give their answers to you via email? When are you going to let the public know what are your opinions as trustees around this water allocation? Your engineer asked you specific questions around each of your 3 options, and you sit here and you delegated those responsibilities and those answers back to the village clerk via email. The public wants to know.
I think what's important is the residents realize that the audit that was before us tonight was for 2009, 2010, and I believe you were in trustee also in 2009. So.
I think that was possible. But I wasn't, but I still want to know where my money is.
Order.
Yes. Where the money is.
There's order.
Judy has, I looked at 6 months and I've been to 23rd Street. 223rd, I sort of tired of hearing who's accountable for what. And you've got former trustee suing us. She was on the board when all this money was supposed to be passed, unpassed, or she voted like every other trustee did. So she's in the middle of that with everybody else. And I don't understand why it's avoided each time. My main purpose in coming up here is to either verify or unverify things that are going around that are causing a little bit of havoc. And I'm asking you straight out, are you running for mayor?
That is a political question, and I would be happy to talk to you after, but not during this meeting, and not part of it.
Okay.
And I have no problem talking to you outside. But when it comes to politics, it's not good to be talking about things like that right now.
Okay. Also, with the audit,
Microphone.
they mentioned that the police pension fund was not included in there, and I did not understand that. I don't understand why it's not a part of that audit.
Right.
We don't do the police pension, they have their.
The police pension has their own board.
I understand that, but he did mention it later.
Oh, okay, no, I mean, we don't pay for their audit, they have their own board of directors and everything, so they, basically, all we do with the checks is just pay to the pension. We don't regulate their checks, we don't know how much they have, we know what we have to pay, our obligation. Yes, it's been going down, we have to find a way to increase it, because we're underfunding, but, we don't have the money, but no, we don't audit their money.
And they did not audit the police pension. The reason it was brought up later during your discussion was how much we're paying every year to those funds. So the mentioning of the police fire pension funds was how much we're paying, not the portion that was audited, because as the trustee stated, they have their own auditing board. They do their own auditing.
So when they get their audit completed, it isn't a part of your audit?
No. See, now, I understand what you're saying because I've been asking that over and over and over, that we had to get their audit in order to move forward with things we had to do. You're correct. Right now, I don't know where we're at or where they're at completing their audit. We just got ours done. So you're right. In order for us to move forward to ask for money and things like that, we have to show that. And we've been asking for that, so I guess that'll be the next thing we'll go to is to make sure they complete theirs. But we can't ask them to complete theirs, we haven't done ours, so. But yes, that's going to be the next thing.
All right, thank you.
I have a couple of questions. My name is Jan Clark. One is pretty much basic, but if you can wait till I'm done with my other questions before somebody chooses to answer it. I hear a lot of times the terms, we are home ruled and we're not home ruled and we can do this because we are, or because we are not. I don't understand what the term means, so if you can explain that to the audience. Maybe everybody already knows but me. Okay? That's one thing. When an audit is done, I normally figure it's from January to January, or fiscal period, beginning to end. And normally an estimated amount of time before you get your results. Now, this particular firm has been doing our audits, I think he said from 1990, possibly. Have they been regularly and timely in their audit proceedings and giving them information back? This is the first time, and they have waited or taken this long. I think that's a shame, and I hope we're not going to be using it again. Okay? Now, you said you were going to discuss the next audit, which would be 10 to 11 in January. What are you going to discuss? Who you're going to elect to do the audit? Or when are they going to start it, or what? Okay, I had one more. Go ahead.
I'm ready to do something.
I'm done. I can't think of anything else.
All right, I know you want to cover home rule, but real quick on the audit. They have been our auditors for quite a few years. The audit was done every year. The previous year has always been done. What happened with Sauk Village was Sauk Village had a 12-month budget. When the new administration came on, they wanted to have an 18-month budget. They automatically increased it by 6 months. And just as the auditor said, there was a lot of information that was not placed in our journals. Books were not reconciled. There was a lot of discrepancies throughout the entire audit, so which increased the amount of time. So one of the first things I did once being put in this position, and Mr. Malon's not here, is bug them almost every day. We sent emails to them, we called them, we said, we want to know we're going to see that audit, we want to see the audit. They weren't here last Friday. They said they would have it done by November 30th. Last Friday, they were sitting in my office. And, or I'm sorry, it was a conference call. I had the hard copy as of last Friday. We did a conference call to review the audit, find out. And I also requested that they were here tonight so that the board could go through the same thing that I went through. That's where it came from the audit. And now when you talk about in January, we're going to discuss as a board when we continue working with this audit firm, we're going to go to another one. It's something I did not want to discuss tonight while they were here. That's why we're pushed up in January. And on the phone last Friday, they were pushing me really hard to say that they would go ahead and start moving forward on the next audit, which I did not give them okay to. Because this one did take so long, and again, they explained why it took a long time. And they're probably not lying to us. They probably ran into a problem. When you run the 13 pages of adjustments that had to be made, you can see why it took so long, because every one of those adjustments, they had to go back and look through credit card invoices. They had to go back and ask, where the money was spent. They had to go back and reconcile bank accounts. So it was a lot of work that they never had to do before in the past. So, and I know Trustee Burgess wants to talk about, it's all junk when you said it. So.
No, what I was going to say is, when it comes to home rule, you give your administration, you give your elected officials full power to raise taxes as need be. You don't have to go off a referendum. Part of the things that it had to be been home rule, we could have made the decision. Quite naturally, we would make the decision with the consent of the citizens, but we would not have to have a referendum to raise the rates of the Burn Lake, Michigan water and things like that. You have to kind of watch when you have home rule, because you have to look and see who you have there. Make sure that you have people that are looking out for the betterment of the village. But it is a pro and con. The pro, if you have people that are really conscientious, they won't do a lot of raising. The con can be that, okay, well, we need to raise rates, we need to raise taxes. Well, the government does regulate how far we can raise taxes anyway, so we're just going to arbitrarily just go out there and say, okay, well, we need $5 million, let's raise taxes for that. No, we can't do that. But your government runs a little different when you have home rule versus non-home rule. a lot of municipalities, also those, it's a population requirement. You have to have so many people in order for you to be considered as home rule. So it's a lot of pros and cons, but some municipalities do it and they get away with it and it works real good. It really does. And you see them and you wonder. I think Naperville is home rule. Not Naperville. There's a village up north, Downers Grove. I think they're home rule. I mean, they work out pretty good, but you have to make sure that your administration is working hand in hand to make that happen because they control the purse strings there. You have an opinion. Only way you can change it is at the polling place. So those would be. But I mean, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but sometimes it is a good thing. You don't have to go back and forth. You can do what's the best for the village because a lot of times people that vote for things often are not around when it happens after it comes in. So sometimes that could be.
Any other comments?
Langston. I just want to make one announcement that the Wednesday senior group, unfortunately, every time I check the date and time, they keep changing their meeting time. So their last meeting in December 12th, instead of 6 o'clock, they're going to be holding it at 5 o'clock. And they won't be meeting until next February, then it's 2 o'clock. I know that the auditors did a lot of work. I've been at the meetings and I can understand. Presently, with the credit card, are there still a lot of credit cards out?
We have no credit cards.
Okay. I know that even with the, I was just hoping because there is concern, and I know that we didn't have detailed information, even when they were handing out water distribution. I understand that there was credit card used for food and some gas is what I understood. So I'm glad to hear that there's no credit card out because I thought they said they gave me some credit card. I don't know if it's a certain $25 credit card type thing for gas.
Gift card.
Yeah, okay, gift card. Okay, thank you.
If you have any comments, please let's make a line and we can keep this moving.
We need to take a collection up.
Well, we'll have to Kevin to find out. It is a little bit chillier here tonight than normal.
Yeah, outside.
Is it?
Yeah.
The temperature drops outside. Okay. Any other comments? Okay. All right. The question is, do we need to, okay, I'm sorry, item number 8, miscellaneous business from council trustees. Go ahead, trustee Green.
I just want to say two things, Mayor and board and residents. I wasn't able to see the actual parade for the Christmas this last Saturday. When I came home from work, I just saw the end of it. But I did see a little bit on, I guess it was YouTube or something, but I did see the float. And it looked like it was very well decorated. Whoever did that, I'd like to tell them, because from my past practices, I didn't quite get it that good, but it was a good decoration. So whoever did that, I'd like to tell them thank you very much, because it was a job well done. Because I have had practice in it. But I do like to make mention, Mr. Mayor, and I don't know who was responsible, but this is the second time that I saw that we had an event that I felt when I got there that it was lopsided, I'll put it that way. We had an event earlier this year for back to school, bags and things like that, which I saw was lopsided, and then this one was another one that was lopsided. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know if people, I know it was on the marquee. I know that I saw it on Facebook that we were going to have, and I know everyone knows that when they see Santa Claus or the parade going out, that they know that we're going to light the Christmas tree. That there was going to be a Christmas tree lighting that evening at dusk. And people that lived out in the village would know that have been out here any longer than 2 years would know that. And I just didn't see the representation that I would like to see because I was up there. And this is the first time I saw, as I stated before, I used to be in charge of that. And we never gave away toys. They gave away toys this year. I don't know where they came from, who donated them. I think they were donated. And you had something to do with that. And that was something that I was kind of sad to see that I know that there's a lot of children in the village that could have really benefited from that because I see that they took some of them. In other words, the kids that were there got the toys, but then, it was still some left over. So I don't know what we need to do as a board or what we need to do to communicate the word out, but this, like I said before, this is the second time I saw something that benefited the youth of the village, and the youth wasn't represented like it should have been, and that's something that I think we as a board need to work on because that was a really nice event, and it would have been more beneficial had we had more representation of the makeup of the board, and that's something I just want to say. But also I'd like to say thank you to all the volunteers that were there. They put on a great show. Santa Claus, I don't know if everybody knows who Santa Claus was. But he did a great job. He was there I understand, that morning, and he was one of the last ones to leave, and we locked up and cleaned up that night. So, and then the committee that was there, they need a round of applause too. I will make this announcement at the next board meeting, but I just wish that we could find a way to get the word out, communicate better, because it was for the youth of Sauk Village. Thank you.
Just to let everybody know, a gentleman in Stager that owns a wholesale dealership, he just bought out 2 toy stores, and he walked up to Mayor Sherman and myself. He said, "You're a trustee of Sauk Village?" I said, "Yes." He said, "I would like to donate toys both to Stager and Sauk Village." And so I told him that'd be great if you could. And he did donate, I don't know, 150 different items. I have no idea what was in there. It just came in a very huge, gigantic box that I picked up and he put on the back of my truck. I brought it back. The gentleman, business is Miles Wholesale, and that's what he is. He's a wholesale dealership. And when he buys out stores, and same thing. And Stager is doing their toys and stuff at their Santa Claus house they have on Halstead there on 34th Street. They're giving their stuff out when they come in, each shop come in there. I've been told that majority of what's left will probably be handed out at the fire department Christmas pancake breakfast. And because all those donated, I'm guarantee it, the kids in this town will get them. And I want to personally thank each and every person that was involved in it. The different organizations, I believe Plan had a hand in it, Margaret had a hand in it, Human Relations, and I mean everybody, it was great. And I know you guys have, the Saturday was fantastic, it was clear. If you saw those kids come outside, saw Santa Claus, it's happy. That's what it's all about, the youth of this town. That's all.
One thing, next year when we do the singing, let's talk.
No comments,
All right, I just have a few things. First of all, before I forget, after the meeting, I'd like to see if the trustees will gather together for a photo. I've asked all the departments, I'm asking the trustees also to join the photo walk so that we can put something on the website wishing the residents a happy holidays. The police department, fire department, public works, they've already started giving their photos and stuff to the website. So we just want to reach out to the residents and wish them a happy holidays. I think it'd be great if as a board, they would just take a quick photo, something we can put out there so the residents can see us. And again, and wish them, you know, happy, a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays. So, the other thing is, I have before me tonight, and just let the residents know, the board know that next Tuesday night I will not be here. I have some business trip I can take. So I would look to the board to, I would ask that you appoint the next senior trustee to take my position while I'm out. But the reason I have this tonight before me is I was hoping that some of the ones were here. I want to reach out and say a special thank you to Santa Claus. I don't know if there's any kids in here, so I don't want to ruin it. Santa Claus, you did a great job. And as I said Saturday, it was the first time I rode in the parade all day. So Saturday night I was pretty tired. I can imagine how you were. You were probably dead. But to see the faces on the children, and sometimes I don't know who had more fun, the adults or the children. I see some of the adults grabbing their kids and dragging them out just to come out and say Santa. But you know, they hear the sirens coming down the street, and they would come out and look out their door, and all of a sudden you'd see their eyes just bulge out, and they'd run back inside. You see families running out. Some of the families came out to the curbside, were sitting in their lawn chairs waiting for the parade to go by. I saw Santa, some family even made Santa some homemade cookies and brought them out to him, so we had to stop the whole parade just so he could get his cookies. No, I think Santa eats them all. The workers that came out and helped, the volunteers, and what I have before me tonight is just a letter of recognition. It's no longer so words aren't coming out as clear as they should tonight. But it's a thank you to those who spent their time, their money, and just coming out and making sure that we had a day in Sauk Village that was for the Sauk Village residents and their kids. And it was just something, again, to see the people come out. So what I have before me tonight, I want to make sure that these get to the ones who are not here. But I try to remember, and if I miss someone, I do apologize. But what I have here, and they're pretty much all say the same, but this one here is for Public Works. It's me after Kevin. I just say, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you and your department for your assistance in the Santa Parade and Tree Lighting Festival. The annual Santa Parade and Tree Lighting festivals are always a huge success due to the many volunteers and village staff members who continue the tradition year after year. The corporate authorities and the residents thank you and every member of your department for your participation. Respectfully, Acting Mayor Dave Hanks. So what I have here tonight is and again, it's just a letterhead. It's to the Public Works Department to let them know that we appreciate what they do. So I don't know if there's anyone here from Public Works. Marva, I talked to her earlier today. She wasn't able to attend, but I also have here one from Marva for the Human Relations Commissions, and I know we had commissioners out there that were helping out when it came to making hot dogs for the kids, hot chocolate, making sure they had candy, passing out stuff. So this one here is for the Human Relations Commission. I have another one here for the fire department. The fire department was fantastic. Letting the float be decorated inside the fire department. So we took their space up, at least for a few days. And of course the fire truck, the firefighters that came out, the engineers that drove the trucks, they were just very helpful in running the kids who got cold, had to go back to the bathroom, running them back and forth to the fire station so they could use the bathroom, and putting them inside the Suburban so they could warm up. So the fire department did do a bunch of work. Next one I have here is for Art Johnson to the Emergency Disaster Agency, which is our ESDA. ESDA came out and made sure that the parade was safe. They blocked the roads. Again, they also helped when it came to making sure that no one got ran over, and they did participate inside the parade. So they were out there all day again. This one here is a special one too. Who's here is Mr. Ed Myers, and for the I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. So I don't know if anyone still believes. You know, when you get to a certain age, you stop believing. I just heard Rose's things. But Ed did a fantastic job with Santa. I don't think there's anyone else. I think he did a whole on Saturday. So I really really appreciate it. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And then I tell you what, Ed probably had one of the roughest jobs because he was out there on the float all day. And then when we stopped for lunch, let the kids eat and warm up, he got back on a fire truck and we went over to Deer Creek and Lincoln Meadows, and he rode on the back of the fire truck while we went through those areas. So I'm sure by the time he came in Saturday night, he was freezing. So the next one I have is going to go tomorrow for Beautification Committee. They were also a big hand and a big help inside getting things ready. The community center was unbelievably decorated. You walked in there and, like one resident said, when you walked in there, you had a warm feeling. Just because of the way they decorated the walls, hung stuff down from the ceilings. Again, with the hot chocolate, the cookies, things like that. And then the setup for Santa with his chair and the decorations and everything all around him. So they did a fantastic job. Next one is, I know Judy's here. This is for the plan group. The plan came out and helped, so I'd like to listen up to the plan. I'll reach over you. So thank you very much. Oh, there you go. And I have one more. I see what's left somewhere. And again, I hope I didn't forget anyone. Saturday was a very busy day. So, this was for the police department. Police department came out, so there's no police officers here, so we'll make sure that everyone receives these. But I wanted to do it tonight because, again, I won't be here next Tuesday. So I wanted to take a chance just to say thank you to all of our volunteers, because I'm sure there's people who weren't part of probably like the police department as the plan, but they came out and volunteered their time anyway. So, and that's what our village is all about, is the volunteers and having a heart for the residents of our community. So that's one thing we want to continue pushing as we move forward. And just as I've been meeting with pastors every week. And some people may be for it, some people may be against it. But before we have these meetings every week, I ask the pastors to pray with me. So I ask the pastors to go back to their congregations and pray with them for our communities.
Amen.
And for our communities so that we move forward. And I've asked them to pray for healing and peace within our community.
Yes, Lord.
To bring our community back together.
Amen.
Now, our meetings seem like they're a lot better, and it's not because of me. I say it's because of God.
All right,
And I don't take credit, and I don't like taking credit for things. So
that's what I'm talking about.
So I'm just saying is, again, we need to continue moving forward in the right direction. As I've always stated, that door is always open. I don't like to be seen that I'm arrogant or cocky, but there's sometimes I don't answer questions. And I hope that the residents would understand the reason why I don't answer questions on certain things. I told one resident tonight, if you want to answer, come talk to me afterwards. Because I feel like that should be part of the meeting. I still want to talk to that resident after this meeting. Okay? But again, I would just hope and pray that we can continue moving our village forward in the right direction. And as we take our baby steps, and I say they're baby steps because, filling committees, commissions, I still reach out to the residents. Present your letters if you want to sit on my committee or commission. there's more committees and commissions that I'm bringing before the village board. And the reason that I'm bringing them for the village board is because our village runs off of volunteers. It always has. That's why we're going to continue setting up these committees, these commissions, working with the village board, reaching out to the residents and asking you to volunteer your time to come help. So, with that said, I don't see a reason for executive session tonight, so I would ask that we move forward to that. And I would ask for a motion to adjourn. Yeah, motion second. All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned. Okay.